Hello, welcome back to the channel where I talk about vinyl records. On today's episode, I'm going to show some of my favorite debut albums in the collection. Now, I'm not going to say these are the greatest debut albums of all time. It's not even a definitive list. There are a lot of awesome debut albums. I just picked some out of the collection and we'll talk about them. I don't have them ranked in any order. I've just got them listed here in the order they were released from the earliest to the most recent. So we'll get started. First I've got from 1974, the debut album from Kiss, the self-titled debut album. Man, that's a good album. Strutter, first song. Deuce, Cold Gin, Black Diamond. Just great songs on here. Great cover. I mean, I was 2 years old when this album came out, but I can only imagine walking into a record store and seeing this. You'd almost have to pick it up. I mean, just to see what it was about. I mean, look at this album cover. And of course, the songs are all great too. Kiss was a great band in the 1970s. Up next, also from the late 70s, the debut album from Blondie. Just another phenomenal record. Blondie's an awesome band. They take like pop, punk, new wave, disco, reggae, smash it all together and come up with their own style somehow out of it. And yeah, this album's awesome. Ex-Offender, Little Girl Lies, Rip Her to Shreds, Kung Fu Girls. Every song on this album's awesome. And yeah, I've got several Blondie albums, but this is the one that I go to the most probably. This is the one that gets spun the most out of all of them. Great album here. Up next, get into the 80s now. Early 80s, the debut album from Motley Crue, Too Fast for Love. And yeah, this is an awesome album. Of course, they went on to become one of the more famous hair metal bands of the 80s, the Sunset Strip bands or whatever. And had a lot of success, but I don't think they ever were as good as they were on this first album. This is more of a almost a punk album or a glam album. It's more in the vein of New York Dolls or T-Rex than metal. But yeah, there's some rocking songs on here. Live Wire, Public Enemy #1, Merry-Go-Round. Pretty much every song on here hits hard. This is a great debut album. Too Fast for Love, Motley Crue. Up next, we've got another great debut album, self-titled album from the Violent Femmes. This, if you grew up in the 80s, I'm sure you probably listened to this album, driving around with your friends. Everyone I know had a cassette of this. And, yeah, Blister in the Sun, Kiss Off, Add It Up, Prove My Love, Gone Daddy Gone. I mean, this album is a legendary, at the time it was, what, alternative rock is what this was called. And just a great album from a three-piece band here. Great album cover. It's, yeah, this is a classic album here and a great debut album from the Violent Femmes. And, yeah, if you grew up in the 80s, you're familiar with this band too. The Beastie Boys debut album, License to Ill. This really sets the tone. I mean, the Beastie Boys couldn't have done a better job of introducing themselves to the world with this album, because it's a classic debut album here. You got Fight for Your Right to Party, Sleep Till Brooklyn, Rhyming and Stealing, The New Style, Paul Revere. It's every song on here. Another great album cover. Another great album. One of the great debuts of all time. Speaking of great debut albums, this one may be one of the best of all time. Appetite for Destruction, Guns N' Roses. This, yeah, it may be the greatest debut album of all time. I don't know. Pete, you may disagree with that. I'm not sure how. Got the original album cover here. And there are the guys. Probably 86, 87. I think this album came out around then, around 1987, I believe. And yeah, I don't know. Does it need to? Do I need to talk more about it? I mean, Welcome to the Jungle, Paradise City, Sweet Child of Mine. I always preferred the other tracks like Rocket Queen, My Michelle, Night Train. But this is one of the greatest debut albums of all time, and it still holds up today. This album still rocks as good as it did when it first came out. Another pretty legendary debut album is Oasis debut album, Definitely Maybe. A lot of people still consider this their best album. They have a lot of good albums, and this one is definitely one of the best. It's a really good debut album. A lot of tracks on it. I mean, pretty much every track on here is good. Live Forever was a big hit. Supersonic, Cigarettes and Alcohol. Digsby's Dinner's on here. Married with Children. Just one great song after the next on here. What's the Story, and maybe better album of theirs. But as far as debut albums go, I mean, this is a good one here. Another debut album that's one of my favorites, Fountains of Wayne debut album. This is a very, I think, underrated band. Some people consider them a one-hit wonder, and I don't. I think that all of their albums are great, and especially this first one. I mean, this is my favorite of their albums, the debut, and I mean, I spin this all the time. This is probably one of my most listened to records. I put this on all the time. Radiation Vibe, Sink to the Bottom, She's Got a Problem, Leave the Biker. There's really not a bad song anywhere on here. And yeah, like I said, I spin this record a lot. If you only know Stacy's Mom, you should give this album a listen, because it's a really good album, really good debut album, and a great band, great songwriters in that band. Up next, another one of my favorite bands, The Strokes debut album is This It. And yeah, New York band here, just awesome, like garage rock band. And when this album came out, we listened to this on repeat. Such a good album. I think it went on to probably influence a lot of the other bands that came after. And it was just an awesome guitar album. So every song here, Barely Legal, Someday, Last Night. I'm sure you've probably heard that one a bunch of times. But really, every song on here is great. I mean, this is a great band. They got a lot of great albums, but their debut here is awesome. Up next, this is one of my favorite bands of all time, The Libertines. Up the bracket is their debut album, and man, I love this band. Just a sloppy, dirty, grungy, punk British band, and I love their sloppy way they have of playing guitar. A couple of great singers and songwriters in the band, and it's just so perfectly sloppy. I love it. I love this album. I love this band. And this album's so good. It's almost a greatest hits album. I mean, Death on the Stairs, Horror Show, Time for Heroes, Boys in the Band, Tell the King. Every song on here is awesome. This is an awesome band. If you don't know much about the Libertines, check them out. I mean, they're awesome. They're a great rock band. I think they have a new album coming out in a couple months, actually, of the time that I'm making this video. Another great British band here, the Arctic Monkeys debut album. Whatever people say I am, that's what I'm not, I believe is what this is called. And yeah, Arctic Monkeys are another great band. Now, they've changed their sound over the years, and still great. I've got a bunch of their albums. I love this band, but it's hard to beat this debut. I mean, this is just raw garage. It sounds like a couple of young, it sounds like young kids sitting up in the garage, plugging in their stuff and just going to town. I mean, songs about going to the nightclub, picking up girls, running from the cops. This is a fantastic album. I listen to this all the time too. And finally, the debut album from Vampire Weekend, another band I like a lot. I've got all their albums. I feel like they've improved with each album, actually, but this one's great. They started off great. Uh, Man, Oxford Comma, A-Punk, Campus, I Stand Corrected, Walcott. I mean, there's no bad songs on this one either. And yeah, they really came out of the gate on this and let you know who they are. They're an awesome band. They don't really sound like anyone else. You hear a Vampire Weekend song, you know it's a Vampire Weekend song, and they've got a cool way of writing songs, and just a great band here. Great debut album. But anyway, that's it for today and this week. Let me know what you guys think about some of my favorite debut albums. Let me know what some of your favorite debut albums are. I mean, I left off some obvious ones like The Doors and Led Zeppelin. Both of those debut albums are great. The Beatles debut album's great. But I wanted to show some ones that maybe weren't as well known. Anyway, let me know what you think about my list. Let me know what your favorite debut album of all time is, and I'll see you next week. Have a good one.